But without further ado, he is the executive chef and co-owner of Workshop Kitchen and Bar and Truss and Twine. Has anybody been there? I've been there. That place is awesome. A Southern California native, Chef Michael Beckman is a driving force in the evolution of the region's dining scene, evidenced at his Palm Springs restaurant, Workshop Kitchen and Bar, and cocktail haven, Truss and Twine. In 2018, Beckman announced that he will be opening a second outpost of Workshop Kitchen and Bar, bringing a taste of the desert to Los Angeles' diverse culinary scene in 2020. Guys, please join me in giving Chef Michael Beckman a warm welcome. Let's hear it for him. All right.
Nice. All right. How we doing, you guys? Hi. Nice to see some familiar faces out there. Thanks for coming out. Do we have any burger fans in the audience today? Nice. Nice. I thought long and hard about what to feature for you guys today. And I thought the burger ties into the ethos and a lot of the philosophy behind Workshop and what's happening in food right now. I also thought it was representative of the food that we do. So that being said, I always tell my team we toe a very fine line between finesse and volume, between being edgy and technically forward to being comfortable. And I think that's part of the recipe that makes us successful. And I don't think there's another dish on our menu that exemplifies that more than what I'm about to tell you about and make for you guys. Has anybody been following the Blended Burger Project by James Beard? No? It's a program we embraced maybe 2-3 seasons ago, which is looking to help provide a smaller footprint from the cattle that we raise in this country and the meat consumption by introducing a sustainable mushroom into a burger. So the concept is a blended burger. The requirements of the program are that you're incorporating at least about 20-30% of mushroom, sustainably raised mushroom into your patty. And the response has been great. You're seeing chefs all over the country come up with fun ideas. And we started this, and it worked so well for us, and we love the flavor profile so much that we decided to keep it year-round. I think the program just started again this week, but let me tell you about our creation. So coming back to technical skills, without getting too edgy into molecular food or whatnot, the style of cooking that we do is very much classically, it has a great classic foundation. So what I mean by that is it's steeped in technique and tradition. It has a reference to historical origins, traditional ways of cooking, but we try to be creative with how we create new combinations and develop a menu that's distinctively Californian. So what we do is I've got a recipe that's very special and near and dear to my heart from my apprenticeship in Burgundy. I apprenticed at La Maloise, Burgundy, one of the great wine regions of the world. It was a 3 Michelin star restaurant, and this was a recipe that has followed me, just one that I've kept in my bag of tricks over the years, and it's a braised oxtail. I don't think there's any better ragu meat anywhere than oxtail. It's so versatile, whether you're doing pasta or risotto or having a ragu, and we incorporate that into the burger and the mushrooms into the burger. So what we're going to do, the oxtail braise itself takes hours, so I've got one that's roasted and ready to go. I'll show you how we get it started out of the oven and then how we finish it. But the technique that's fun is we braise the oxtail, roast and braise, and then towards the end of it, and we've got this beautiful braising liquid, we chop mushrooms, and we fold them in a cheesecloth, and we're going to poach them in the braising liquid. So the mushrooms are giving their flavor and their juices to the braising liquid and to the oxtail, And then also those mushrooms, we squeeze them out into a cheesecloth, are going to be folded into the burger as the mushroom component. So this is something you guys can do at home and be creative with, whether you want to introduce other vegetables or other ideas. It works great with zucchini, other cheeses, other mushrooms. You can incorporate all kinds of vegetables to kind of make a lighter, more sustainable burger. So why don't we get started? We've got all right, can you guys see that? Where are we at? There we are. Okay, so we've got Wagyu Oxtail, which is our favorite kind. Simply salt, pepper, roasted. At this point, we're going to add a mirepoix. Who can tell me what mirepoix is? There we go, the Holy Trinity, right? All right. Okay. Celery, carrots, onions, the Holy Trinity, and French cooking and a lot of Italian cooking. Sofrito's a great base in a lot of Italian cooking as well. All right. Who can tell me what... Oh. We're going to tie it up new. Anybody familiar with a bouquet garni? Okay. This had one of the Rancho Mirage culinary students who got super excited to see this. He said, I thought that they would only do that in textbooks in schools. I've never seen a chef here that actually do it. All right. So while this is warming up, I'll walk you through some of the other components of the burger. We've got a roasted shallot marmalade, like caramelized shallots, if you will, which you want to do in like a heavy pot or rondo. Slice as thin as you can get them. You can use, I love using ghee or olive oil, something that's not going to brown and burn because it needs a lot of time on the stovetop. It takes a lot of time, 45 minutes to 2 hours, depending on how you like them. But low and slow, really rich, really a great base. So this is going to be one component on the burger. And I can hear this sizzling. All right, so we've got these beautifully caramelized oxtails. At this point, we're going to add some of our mirepoix. Some chefs will roast the vegetables in with the bones, which is good as well. I like to keep the vegetables on the fresher side so you can still have the aromas. 9 out of 10 times when you're making a stock or a jus, and you get like a burnt toasty note, that's usually from the vegetables burning or onions. It's very hard to get a bad flavor from the meat, but your vegetables will burn, so I like keeping this on the fresher side. Right next to that, I've got veal stock. Everything at Workshop is made in-house. We make it from scratch. Our stocks, our braises, our ragus, seasonings. For a restaurant that does the type of volume that we do, it's an enormous production to do all of this fresh, but I believe it really pays off in the final product and when people enjoy it as much as they do. Okay, so we got the mirepoix. One of the fun elements that I'm going to show you today, you can introduce all kinds of wines or spirits into your braise. The one that I have from La Maloise is actually with port wine, Madeira or cognac, and then truffle juice. Speaking of which, have you seen truffle juice? I think that's the one thing I'm missing. But any port will do. Preferably something you wouldn't mind drinking. That's my rule of thumb is if you don't want to drink it, it probably doesn't belong in your food. I wouldn't put my top shelf or reserve bottle in there, but use something that's good. And I did a huge batch of something like this in a banquet kitchen working in Berlin and flambeing, and it was in a huge deal. And be careful with your eyebrows. It'll... all right. So when you're doing, when you're flambeing, or cooking with alcohol, of course, be careful with the convection. But as a rule of thumb, you want to cook it until the alcohol is just burned off. So you still want to be able to smell it, and like that's my rule of thumb when I make risotto as well. You deglaze with a white wine. As soon as the smell of wine the alcohol goes away, you're good. So you don't want to bring it all the way dry, but you do want the alcohol to burn off. I'm going to add a little more port wine. How's the wine in the tent today? Yeah? A good show out there? I'm going to get a chance to walk around myself after this. All right, so we've got the 2 alcohols. I'm going to make sure this is burned off. You're cooking on gas, this will catch and you don't have to light it, but induction's a little trickier. Who can tell me how much, if you're going to do a braise or a ragu, how much liquid do you want in the pan? Yes? Yep. You said 3/4? Yeah, 2/3, 3/4. You don't want it swimming around and having a party in the bath. You want it to be held, in a way that's pretty stable. And you just want to keep the liquids, and this is how you make a jus, right? This is going to make a fantastic braising liquid, or a fantastic sauce. All right. You let this come up for a little bit. A little bouquet garni. I like really pure flavors. Depending on what I'm doing, a lot of times I like just salt, pepper, and really good product. Just clean, simple, straightforward seasoning. We do get creative with spices and spice blends like sharmula, or when it gets into like Moroccan and Tunisian style of cooking. But I like to let the food show for itself. So there's salt and pepper in here. We'll taste in a little bit. We got the bouquet garni in here. Anybody out there know what I'm doing with parchment paper right now? No? Have you heard of a cartouche? Cartouche is, so in the commercial kitchen, sorry? It's in a commercial kitchen, you don't always have those perfectly fitting lids for big old rondos in every size pot and pan. So one of the things that comes in really handy, you guys see how I did that, just folding up a piece of parchment paper? We're going to create a little circle with a hole in the middle. So that's going to cover your meat so that as it goes, it can evaporate, but it keeps the heat nice and down and stable. So you put the tip right in the middle like that and go out to the edge with your finger, okay? Then I'm going to come in here and cut a little circle, so, and then cut a little hole in the middle. Voila. Voila. Right? Okay, so that cartouche is going to keep us in a good spot. Okay, if we're doing this at home, then that's going to stay like that for 2-3 hours, or as long as you want until that meat is falling off the bone. What's nice about a cartouche as well is you can add liquid on top of it. It finds its way down. So it's a nice way to do that. Okay. Shallots are good. I know I sent a recipe to the festival, and if they don't make that readily available for you, I'd be happy to provide it. But yeah, there's a recipe card. Generally, when we're doing stuff like this, it's more by feel and heart and soul. And if you're doing it for the first time, I find a recipe helpful just for a sense of scale, or duration. So with these, I've got Cremini Mushrooms, which is what we use for the base for the blended burger. This guy's coming up nice. I'm going to do a quick chop for these. We've also got some cheesecloth. I think you can find cheesecloth in most stores. And again, we're going to come back with this twine. So the mushrooms at work, we basically put them in a RoboCoupe and cut them down to duxelles. I don't have a RoboCoupe right now, so I'm going to just do a quick chop by hand, and we're going to put them into the parchment and tie it up. So that's going to be how we're going to poach it without the mushrooms going everywhere, and having them release the flavor and cook them. All right. Who's already thinking about what wine we're going to drink with this? Yeah? Any thoughts? Sorry? Grenache? Nice. Nice. Anybody else? Is in? Something big, right? For one of the things, the rule that's helped me over the years to best pair food and wine has been knowing the regions of the food. So a lot of what we're cooking is steeped in some tradition, and if you know what's influencing your food, you can usually trace it back to a region, right? When I think of oxtail, okay, I know I learned this recipe in Burgundy, but Burgundy's not known for oxtail. Anybody know what region is known for oxtail? Sorry, Portugal? Nice. I know a lot of Asian countries cook with oxtail too. They love it. But for me, the region, at least from my understanding of it, that is most linked to it is Piemonte. So if you think about Piedmont and where it's located, it's at the foot of the Alps in northern Italy, right? And you have this wonderful, rich region with dairy, cheeses, a lot of wild game, a lot of forests. And what do they drink in Piemonte? They drink a lot of Sangiovese, a lot of Nebbiolo. If you're thinking everything from Barolo to Chianti to Brunello, typically those would be my preferable choices with this guy. But these days in California, we do so many great productions of these grapes too. All right. Next time I'll bring a bigger cutting board. All right. So this is fine for now. We'll do a rough chop. Get into here. Cremini mushrooms. So I think they're at Whole Foods all the time. Trader Joe's, I think, as well. Basically like a brown, button mushroom. But very mild in flavor, nice texture. All right, so cheesecloth, all I'm looking to do, this is nothing fancy. All I'm looking to do is tie this up in a way that I can poach real quick. Okay. Let's submerge them in this liquid. You guys, everybody see that? Cool. All right. This part doesn't take long, and it's hard to overdo it, but maybe 4 or 5 minutes in there. Yes? Why don't I cook the whole mushrooms in there? I'd have to chop them afterwards, and I feel like they release more of their flavor like this. Oh, because afterwards, I'll show you in a minute. Afterwards, we're gonna drain them, squeeze out all the liquid and the mushroom juices going into the broth, and then we're gonna fold the remaining mushrooms into the burger patty. Good question. Okay. All right. All right. Well, that's working. Let's get some chuck. Now we got. We use a chuck from a program that's called Newport Natural. It is grass-fed, wild cattle, never sees antibiotic, hormones, grass-fed for 80% of its life, and that's important for us from an ecosystem point of view. But as chefs, we like a little more marbling. So what we liked about that this program is they finish the cattle on grain. So the last 20% of their life, they're finished on grain. So for me, it's kind of the best of both worlds. You have something that is a responsible product, but you're still getting a little of that extra marbling, which helps in a burger, right? Okay. So we've got some ground chuck already. Okay. Sorry? Of the chuck? So I would say this is going to be about 60% of the burger. Yeah, yeah. So we use, and imagine, 6-0. 6-0. So imagine what a difference it would make in this country if, as a nation, we consumed 40% less ground chuck or hamburgers. It would have a huge impact, right? Okay. Let's see here. So in our burger, we put a little bit of fresh shallot, a fresh egg, and for me, how you work the burger is important. Okay, when you overwork the burger, you're going to create a denser texture. It's not going to stay as juicy. I try to work it as little as I can. Just to season, throughout and get a uniform seasoning, as well as you'll see when we compact the burger. All right, a little bit of shallot, salt, pepper. So we got whole egg, shallot, salt, pepper. All right. We don't want to overdo it. It's just for a little aroma. One other thing I wanted to talk about today is seasonality. I learned to cook mostly in Europe, and a lot of the traditional cooking there is traditionally is seasonal. That's just I think I grew up in Southern California, so we've had less dramatic seasons and just less overall awareness of cooking seasonally, which has changed a lot since then. Sorry? No. But right now we're on a big brink of a change, right? There's so much rain this year and cool weather. It's really kind of delaying our spring produce that we like to feature this time of year. And one of the recommendations that I think is helpful cooking at home that we do at Workshop. So it's got salt, pepper, little shallot, little egg at this point. Get this seasoning. We have a basic structure of the menu, a lot of the type of plates and placeholders that we keep on the menu. And then as we get into different seasons and go different directions, we start to accent all of those things. For example, a shaved Brussels sprout salad has been pretty much on the menu since 2014. And yes? Juiciness, flavor, texture, yeah. It helps to bind it as well, yeah. This is the cold one. I didn't want to wait for this one to cool off in the raising liquid, but after you've poached the mushrooms, squeeze all of the liquid out, and that goes back into the braise. And then we have this guy. All right, so we can see. It's great flavor. I love the aroma of mushrooms. The other night we were noshing on some charcuterie and cheese at home, and just a real quick saute of fresh mushrooms and olive oil and some Italian herbs, a little bit of garlic. It was perfect for like a late night snack. All right, so we got our mushrooms. I'm gonna fish out one of these guys. There we are. You guys see how this is just tender falling off the bone? Nice. For me, I don't really look at the time on this. I look at the color. When I'm roasting, I'll generally go 45 minutes to an hour and a half, depending on convection of your oven and temperature, just until it's a deep golden brown. Yeah. And like I said, with the meat, it's hard to overdo it. You don't want it black, but it's the vegetables you got to be careful about. All right. So for these, I'll let them cool for a second. We like to feature a brioche bun with sesame. If doing it at home, I think it can be challenging to find a good bun. I think we'll be tasting this in just a few minutes in a slider version. And one of my favorite go-tos that you can find pretty much anywhere is just the classic Hawaiian roll, right? I think it would lend itself well to this, but if you don't have access to good sliders, it's kind of a go-to that you can find everywhere. All right, so we got this guy. I like to use a ring mold when I do the burger. One, it helps it to keep a nice uniform shape. And then two, it helps me to work it less. So you can kind of get it in a nice clean form. Always keep in mind that it's going to shrink a little bit. I'm going to go with the biggest one if you guys can see. If we got it. All right. Ooh. I like to do about a 6-ounce hamburger patty. Oh, nice. Beat me to it. Don't throw those bones away when you're done picking the meat and go back. They've got a lot of fantastic minerals in them still. So we like to pull it and give it a nice rough chop. All right. So for time's sake, I'm going to keep the oxtail to that, but typically I'd like to add about 2 or 3 times to that, or whatever you like to taste. Along with this, to finish, how's it tasting? Yeah? Nice. Yes? Nice. Workshop Kitchen and Bar. This is on our menu. Not as a slider, but as a full burger. Yeah. Palm Springs. Yeah. Uptown on Tamarisk and Palm Canyon. Sure. All right, so I got a nice little mix here. I typically like to go a little bit more oxtail, but that's up to you guys. You can play with it. You can go over as much or as little on the oxtail and mushroom as you like. Salt and pepper. There are truffle elements in what you're tasting. There's a truffle mayonnaise. Making a good mayonnaise is a beautiful thing. And we like to use truffle salt and truffle juice to get those flavors. A lot of the truffle oil was very, very popular in the 90s, and I think a lot of chefs overdid it. Yes? Truffle juice, so when they can truffles and they're cooked, it's the broth and the steam and the runoff from it. So it's got a very natural, unadulterated, straightforward truffle flavor, and it's not cheap either. Let me think if you can find it out here. It's one of the harder things to come by out here. I'll sell you a can. But I'm pretty sure on Amazon you can find it. It's always an imported French or Italian product. So you see that ring mold's helping me keep a nice border, flatten it out. Not going to weigh it, but that's about 6 ounces. Nice loose texture. I'm into it. Okay. So. There we go. Okay. Okay. All right. At Workshop, one of my favorite tools that we have, and one of the things that plays a huge role in the kitchen, is our Aztec wood-burning grill. We use almond wood because it burns hot, long, good flavor. So the sliders you're enjoying have picked up. We marked them on the wood-burning grill at Workshop, and that smoke flavor is a really big part of our flavor profile. But there's nothing wrong with a good old pan-fried burger. Okay. Okay. I chose butter just for the browning properties. Okay. Do you have a plate? Right here. Thank you, Shaniqua. All right. Got my. I snuck in some of that truffle mayonnaise. Thank you. All right. I like iceberg. I also like little gems. But for a burger, I like the classic. Guys, when you're at home and you're making a burger or any piece of meat, resting it properly is a really important step. It gives the juices a chance to redistribute, and the color, you got a kind of usually a kind of towards the more done side, color on the outside, and then pink in the middle. And if you give it a chance to rest, all of that distributes nicely. All right. Pros and cons of a grilled versus pan-fried or griddled burger. You get a lot more fat retention when you're doing it in the pan or on the griddle, which can be great for flavor, but is definitely going to retain more fat than you would if you do it on a grill. This is a beautiful truffle pecorino. Just going to melt over that. My favorite summer tomato to use on burgers is an early girl tomato you can get from your farmer's market, the Palm Springs Farmer's Market or the Palm Desert one as well. I think they're not quite ready yet. So in the off season for tomatoes, we'll splurge on some good heirlooms. melt that cheese. Caramelized onions. Bring a really beautiful sweet component to it. All right. Cheese is melted. It's going to be chef style. This one's going to be rare. All right. Let's go. I could put these onions on everything. Eggs in the morning. And there's the full-size version for you guys. Hope you enjoyed the sliders. Thank you for your time.